right, welcome to our live stream segment of Businesses Helping Business. And today I'm joined by our local mayor, Barry Turner. And I want to send out a special thank you to Morinville News that shares this stream every Monday. And there's a little bit of confusion in the title. I have new live streaming software. So this one, which I'll fix the title after, says free beginner guitar lessons. These are not guitar lessons. We are here with our mayor looking at how local council is helping businesses. So without further ado, let's get to it. All right, I'm going to go to gallery view so that everybody can see you, Barry, and bring you in. Barry, thanks so much for joining me here.
Yeah, no, thank you for the opportunity to, come on your video podcast and share information on this important topic.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Yeah, one thing that we're blessed with here in Morinville is an abundance of community spirit. So we've seen the community come together in so many ways, whether it's, drive-by birthday parties, the Ding Dong Dash care packages and things like this podcast here. We've seen the community step up to support each other in some big ways. So thanks for doing this. It's another example of what we're doing to support each other.
I appreciate that. And and we had the economic development officer, which I know that's the wrong title. He has a longer title, but he was super helpful to people. And and I appreciate, especially on a holiday Monday, that you're here. And I really appreciate that you took us up on the ask when we asked for you to come here.
You bet, no problem at all.
So with so we're kind of focused on businesses. How can businesses help each other? And council and municipalities and governments of all levels are a part of that. And so just kind of from your perspective, can you give me the overview of what council is doing, how they've had to react, and later on I want to get into a little bit of what is the impact on council, because I think that's needed information. But at first, focusing on businesses, what can council do? What has council been doing?
Well, yeah, I think, some of the most important things to communicate here is that, our overall approach, the impacts that we've seen are multifaceted. We're talking about healthcare, our social well-being, economics, and, that overall approach is important to understand. Another thing that we all have to understand here is that we're just beginning to feel a lot of the economic impacts of this pandemic, and facing the double whammy here in Alberta with low oil prices. This recovery is looking very much like a long-term exercise. As municipalities, we don't have the ability to print money, so to speak, through large debentures to fund operations like some of the federal and provincial governments do. So, we're experiencing some potentially serious cash flow crunches, with the programs to defer taxes and utility late fees and so on until September, as well as significant revenue hits, due to closed facilities and programs and so on.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And one of the things that might be very helpful is that, in general, when I talk to people in the general public, they don't really understand the kind of the or the structure of municipal governments. It comes from people saying, well, why isn't local government putting in, this type of store in town, where people don't understand that, council doesn't decide which business can come and go in town. They provide an atmosphere that encourages people to take the risk and put a business in town. But so, what role can a municipal government really take in all of this? Because you have some powers and you don't have others.
Well, the main thing is just providing that opportunity. We're responsible for the essential services that make everything go. Your roads, your pipes, your other infrastructure that all properties, be it residential or business, need to operate. So basically, the main role is to create that environment where there is available resources, places for businesses to invest in, and ensure an overall strong environment for business to prosper. Yeah, I wish we could just make a call and and have a big box store come and build something. But unfortunately, yes, our role is to create that environment for positive investment and growth, and attract new investors to our community.
Yeah. So then, getting down into the nitty gritty of this a little bit, what direct things have, what kinds of decisions that you can talk about have council had to make in the first, we're now in like kind of our 2 3 month ish part. So what decisions have you guys had to make at this point?
Well, right off the bat, I mean, the first pillar of our approach is we have to ensure that the overall health and safety of the community is maintained. So right out of the gate, we're all aware of the risk to public health, and we all need to ensure that we're following the direction of Alberta's chief medical officer. So
Hmm.
a lot of that, right away we had to make some tough decisions with regards to the closure of facilities and programs, and other events. That have had to be canceled to comply with those distancing restrictions and other restrictions put in place by the chief medical officer.
So
Um,
like that's closing like our rec center. As far as I understand it, Canada Day and the festival, the yearly festival are canceled. Those types of things. So those decisions you guys had to get right on and say, for public health, we can't do it.
that's right, absolutely.
Yeah. And what other sorts of things?
Well, I mean, the other thing that we needed to evaluate right away, with the province, announcing the tax deferral programs and the utility payment programs, we needed to very quickly assess, what some of the potential outcomes of moving forward with these programs, based on solid data and information. So we had to take a pretty hard look at our cash flow position, look at a number of different scenarios, based on how many residents and businesses may defer their taxes, how many may be able to continue to make those payments. So early on, we did determine that we can weather the storm, provided enough ratepayers, can continue to pay, make those payments. One message here is really critically important. If you do have the means to do so, please do continue those payments, as that will help ensure that any future supports that are required are going to be available.
So I'm going to ask the question as a music teacher that's a local business guy in town. You don't have to answer, and you're not going to look bad for not answering, but I'm going to ask.
That's
In in this question, in your answer on that, you'd said if enough ratepayers pay, we can go forward. So I'm assuming if zero pay, we're going to have a problem. Do you have a number of how many people need to pay their taxes as per usual to move forward?
Well, we looked at scenarios based on 75% and 50% or so on. The bottom line is that we'll definitely need at least 50% or better to continue to make those payments in order to not have to rely on other revenue sources, such as short-term debentures and that sort of thing. That's really, as a minimum, that's what we need to move forward.
Perfect. Okay. And just so you know, I'm bringing in another guest here. One of the gentlemen from my mastermind. These guys are working hard, and everybody tries to get in. And so Lee Hodgins has just joined us, and he's on the gallery view, so everybody can see everybody now. And just to fill you in, Lee, we're kind of talking. We're talking with our mayor from Mornville, and we were talking about the plan that the town had to make in kind of early days. And Barry, you outlined that we kind of need 50% of people to pay as a worst case scenario, which from my perspective, if even some of our worst numbers are that there's going to be like 30% unemployment rate, which means there's a 70% employment rate. So that 50% number is actually seems smart and conservative. I like just as a business guy, and that's not a finance guy, but that actually just as a common sense person, that seems like a good, like you guys went with good solid information on that. And like you say, it's important that everybody that can pay taxes do.
Yeah, I'll add one important note there too, is
Yeah.
that these are deferrals as well. So basically, part of the premise is that, once the deferral program is over, that we will continue. We're not in a position where we can forgive any of those taxes whatsoever. We still need that revenue to come in. And if we do, face a reduction in that overall revenue that comes through, by the end of the year, then yes, yeah, you're right. We're in a totally different boat. And, we'll need continued support, from the federal and provincial government to assist us in that situation.
That makes a lot of sense. And so, based on that, and I think the general sentiment amongst, especially small businesses, is everybody does understand that it's a deferral. This is not free money. This is not a holiday. The bill is going to come in the mail, and most of us have been hit in various ways. Some people are having better business than normal. Some people are hit extremely hard, and most of us are somewhere in the middle on that. And deferrals, and then paying the bill later. I don't think any of us want to pay the piper if we don't have to.
Yeah, it's definitely, and again, it's important. Everybody knows this. If you put paying something off, you end up having to pay the piper in the end. So it's a tough situation, but we're doing what we can to give at least people some options and some flexibility there to navigate their way through all this.
Yeah. And so this is totally unscripted. You and I said hi, and that was it, before all of this. If I'm putting you on the spot, you're going to let me know. But one of the things for businesses is that the thing that drives the most of our fear is the unknown. There are, and you don't know, provincial and federal governments don't know what's coming. We've never done this before. Right.
Right.
So, when I forecast as a small business, let's say I have to defer taxes, and I know that I'm going to be ejected into the worst economy our province ever seen after that. So I choose to defer my taxes because it's what I need to do today. And then, let's say I start to be able to get on my feet again. Is, in Morinville specifically, because you can't speak to other municipalities, but will the spirit be, if they've deferred a year's worth of taxes, will the spirit be, let's work with you to get this back on track and see if we can pay it over some time, or work with each person individually because all businesses have been affected differently? Or will it be, here's our policy and how we're coming back, and how these deferrals will work? Have you guys thought that far ahead? What is the general sentiment there with that kind of thing?
Well, the tax, there's an established tax recovery process that's been in place, since the dawn of municipalities. And part of that process is working with each individual ratepayer, to develop a payment process if possible, a payment plan. There are cases where folks have been unable to pay their taxes, and that recovery process is, it's not quick, but it also involves finding all alternatives to resolve the situation, come up with alternative payment methods and so on. And you know that's something that's always been a part of the process.
Hmm.
And again, and we're going to have to continue to assess and see, how many ratepayers are affected and what is going to be our long-term ability to be flexible. Here's hoping that we can do our best and be as flexible as possible. Certainly the community is not going to be served with a lot of vacant businesses and so on and so forth. So we're going to take all the steps that we can to maximize flexibility as much as we
Yeah.
can.
Yeah. So from a council perspective, you guys really, from a business perspective, you control tax rates, the ability to defer and create the recovery of taxes as it can be paid back. And, you control public health for our, like their community center and cultural center and all those kinds of things, or our rec center and the things that you guys can control. But you're not, like directly with business. Council is not, really kind of working direct one-on-one with businesses. It's not part of your mandate. It's not what you cover. Am I
That's right.
correct in that?
Well, that's right. I mean, certainly the role of the municipal government is not in making direct payments or direct support to either individuals or corporations. We don't have a revenue source like the federal or provincial government in terms of income taxes that, raises and lowers depending on the overall economy. Our revenue is tied almost exclusively to property values in the community, and it's a it's a very unforgiving source of revenue. In terms of being one of the few sources that we have to really pay most of the bills. So that's one area that in times of economic prosperity, other levels of government can build reserves or do things like that when times are good. In a municipal setting, how the economy doing has very little with revenue streams coming in.
So, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but as a music teacher in town, here's my understanding of municipal budgets is basically, um, like you say, you pretty well have taxes like, local property taxes and business tax as your revenue stream. And then other things are more cost recovery. So, that'd be service fees for, rec centers and that kind of thing. And for many, many, many years, basically it's a yearly, we're bringing in an X amount of dollars and we try to spend slightly less so that we can build a little bit of reserve, but it basically costs what you bring in to run the municipality. Is
Yeah,
that
like any other operation, be it our in our personal lives or in our business lives, there's that unrelenting cost of living and inflationary increases that everybody sees, and that's one thing that contributes to that slow, relentless increase in property tax rates, because we have to deal with that beast just as everyone else does. And it's frustrating, but at the same time, people have high expectations and demands in terms of level of service in the community, and we do our best to provide them and provide them at a sustainable cost.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So Lee, I'm just wondering if there was any questions that you came to the table with, or questions that you had for our mayor. I know I'm throwing you under the bus and just throwing you on. Just I don't want to dominate everything. I'm going to unmute you here. I think I'm unmuting you. It's not unmuting. Why is it not unmuting? I think you have to unmute yourself there, Lee.
There we go.
There we go. Yeah, so I'd love to hear what you have to ask our mayor.
I'm just wondering if you have a 5-year plan at all. Is that how you work in terms of your budget, or is this because you're talking about deferrals? Sorry, so that's going to have some impact in your long-term budgeting, I would think.
Yeah, that's one thing we do. We do have multi-year budgeting, so we do. Obviously, when we're setting our budget, we focus on the current year. However, we have 2 additional years of projections that we look at. We've got long-range capital plans that we also have to keep an eye on in terms of when important infrastructure projects or other key investments need to happen. So absolutely, municipal finance is very much a long-term game. You've got to keep your eye on so many things that are coming down the road. Because we're dealing with property taxes, and any really significant swings one way or the other can have a huge impact in any one given year. So you've got to be looking ahead and planning ahead as best you can.
Yeah. So thinking of it from a business point of view, sorry, I apologize for being a few minutes late, but I missed the first part of the conversation on deferrals. Did you say you are going to be offering deferrals, or that's not really part of the plan?
No, part of the plan is we've put in place to allow residents and businesses to defer the payment of their taxes until the end of August.
Right. Okay. So given that, then I assume you've done some projections basically that would account for that loss of revenue over that period of time, and then some kind of plan to recoup those deferrals or that revenue over time after that, correct?
Well, basically, one of the challenges there, and yes, we're facing some potentially large cash flow issues in the short term.
Yeah.
We do need to look at that data to make sure that, what, if 50% of ratepayers are unable to make those payments, can we last through to the end of the deferral program?
Yeah.
One thing that we definitely need to monitor is, how that program is doing, but then also at the end of the deferral program, if we continue to see businesses and residents that are unable to continue those tax payments, then we are going to need to look at other sources of revenue. Certainly, we're doing a lot of work with some of the other municipalities in the Edmonton metropolitan region to lobby the federal and provincial governments to find ways to support us should that occur. Up until this point, there's been a lot of programs aimed at individuals, again, direct payments to assist us to get through this time. However, there hasn't been additional funding allocated for municipalities. So that's one thing that we need to have our eye on and monitor progress. And if there are, at the end of the deferral process, if there continue to be folks that are unable to make those payments, then, we've got to, make some pretty tough decisions.
Yeah. So your financial plan then would include, I assume, some kind of default plan that basically accounts for, X percentage of your revenue stream to, basically be lost because you've got individuals and individual properties, and whether they're businesses or individuals who, inevitably are going to default as a result of what's happening now.
Yeah, I mean, certainly we'll.
Sorry, I'm asking all the tough questions, but I think
I love it. It's awesome. It's awesome.
No, well, part of the plan, we've had to make some really tough decisions, and again, looking ahead and setting the community up as best we can for some of those more dire economic outcomes. We did have to look at some temporary short-term staff reductions, to reduce expenditures and reduce that potential cash flow impact, and retain some of that capacity to provide future supports. And there's no other way to say that sucks. There's so many of our great amenities and programs that are in mothballs right now, and it's affected almost a third of our staff. And we hope to bring our folks back as soon as we can. But this is one of the ways that, and one of the spokes in the plan to address some of those shortfalls, is that if we are able to at least temporarily reduce those expenditures, then we have a little bit of wiggle room, so to speak, to muddle our way through.
And on the revenue side, I think I don't know what I guess my question would be, how creative are you prepared to get in terms of drumming up revenue in the midterm as well as the long term?
Well, we are, currently right now we're working on a number of things in terms of regional cooperation and collaboration to overall reduce some of our costs and services for some of those bigger ticket items regionally. We are working with our rural counterpart in county, on some mandated cost sharing programs around recreation and other areas. Right. So that's, there's a number of kind of irons in the fire, so to speak, that will come into play to improve our long-term position. And, we need to, to continue to move forward and have those pieces come in place to also help us there.
So I bet when you took on this job, you didn't really think this was going to be part of the job description, huh?
Well, yeah, it's, we've had a very ambitious council that's had an ambitious agenda. We've we've achieved a lot of fantastic things for the community, and it really it's difficult to have to stop for a minute and reassess and have your future kind of changed on us. But we're all in that boat. We're in that boat
Yeah.
together, and
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we just need to do our best and support each other through it, and we'll make it out all right.
Good
Yeah.
answer.
That was really good. I have a couple of questions that Lee can shut me down on if he thinks they're ridiculous. Um, but I want to play what if for a second, which is a dangerous game, okay? Because none of us knows what's coming. But and I'm I'm assuming that if some of these comes, Morinville in specific is not going to be the first community that gets hit with some of these things. So, for example, worst case dire scenario, and a municipality goes bankrupt, or is like cannot make it financially work. And for some of our very small towns that are already struggling, I see this as a real possibility. And how would we manage that, and what effect would that have on business? So there's my 9-part question. With what do you think about that, Barry?
Yeah, well, so much for the softballs, eh?
Sorry, Barry. I couldn't not throw you the important ones.
Well, I think at the end of the day, should Morinville find itself in a really tough position, we're not going to be the only municipality that's facing this. So, one of the key things again is our efforts to reinforce some of the challenges with our federal and provincial counterparts. To be able to step in and provide some supports to help us get through some of those challenging situations. At the end of the day, one of the last resorts, is to look at the programs and services and the overall level of service. Nobody wants to reduce those.
Right.
As I stated earlier, people demand a lot. Recreation facilities, programs, and events. Quality of life is a big thing that determines where people decide to live, and we definitely don't want to go that route. And our next step here is also lobbying federal and provincial governments to be able to find ways of backstopping municipalities through this difficult time. As as stated before, we don't have that ability to pull money out of the air, so to speak, without having some really significant impacts on individuals and individual businesses.
Yeah, like basically your one thing is higher service fees and taxes. That's kind of your options,
Yeah,
really. Yeah.
yeah, not fun.
No. Yeah. So then my other what if question, and I know this is kind of a more federal provincial, but it will impact municipalities as well, is we're going to start to, because this is a long-term issue, at least 18 months in some fashion or other. And we're reopening now, which we don't really understand what that impact is going to be. But at some point, elections are going to have to happen, right? And the possible impact on elections and local politicians being like our election, I believe, is next October. And so, which could be on the tail end of this, could be in the heart of it. And so, the ability for politicians to go out and state their case, like many more things are going to be online. Have you seen any other municipalities that maybe have elections going on right now, and how this is affecting our democratic process?
No, at this point, I'm not aware of any by-elections that are active currently in the province. But yeah, these days a lot of campaigning is an online exercise. Certainly the prevalence of social media and that and more that's becoming the case. I think folks have the avenues and the ways to get their message out. So I'm not forecasting a huge impact in that regard. I mean, it certainly will have an impact. However, there are tools to make that possible. Certainly I'm hoping that we're out of the woods on this one come next October. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But if not, I think there's ways to make it happen.
Awesome. That's awesome. Barry, was there any points that you prepped for this that you feel like questions from myself and Lee didn't address that you feel are kind of an important message to businesses or community members at this time?
Well, one key part of our strategy too is part of it. You've got resources as a municipality,
Yeah.
but you also have other resources that are active out there in the community. That part of what we do needs to ensure that all of our community resources are activated and all of our community is able to provide the supports to each other. An example, our local not-for-profit organizations, the Food Bank, Midstream Society,
Hmm.
Chamber of Commerce, all of those organizations. We're doing a substantial amount of work in terms of communicating with those organizations regularly and ensuring that they are still able to meet demands. And so far so good. But we need to, like I said, this is going to be a long term exercise. That's one of the reasons we also need to retain some capacity to support. Let's say, can the food bank maintain supports for 3, 6, 9 months? If they can't, we need to be ready to provide that support. I think another key thing here is that a lot of our success lives with the decisions of individual consumers.
Right.
We have a great business community. We've seen a lot of folks, get out there continuing to order, takeout from local restaurants. If you've got the means, if you can buy something in Morinville, buy it in Morinville. Now it's super critical that, that's where you and I can each have an individual impact and change how our future looks. We need to get out there, visit your local stores. If you have a project that you're looking to complete in your house, um, you know,
Yeah.
shop locally, get what you need to complete those. Donate to support your food bank and so on. Every dollar that's spent in the community circulates. It goes to pay a wage, which goes to buy other products locally, pays another wage, and so on. That circulates. Each dollar spent locally circulates several times in the community. So a lot of this is going to be riding on our individual decisions to support our local community.
That's
You take,
huge.
a business is an investment. Take the investment that you've made in your in operating your business. Take family. You take the Meunier family. 2 Shell stations, 2 liquor stores, new commercial properties for lease. I mean, these are huge investments, and they've made the decision to support our community. The Chevalier family, another example, they've operated local businesses in the community for decades.
Hmm.
Our businesses are invested in our future just as much as or more than we are. And our success is going to depend on their success, and we've got to do what we can to support our local businesses through this. Absolutely.
That's a very, very well articulated and powerful statement that, individual businesses that are still functioning, and some are having better times than ever, and some are having worse for sure. Um,
Mhm.
but choosing, to really, really support local is important. From my perspective as a business owner, if I don't have other strong businesses around me, people are less likely to shop local, and therefore they're
Right.
less likely to shop with me. Period.
Yeah.
So I really, yeah. My next softball question would be, what are the best examples of community spirit that you've seen in all of this? What's the feel good stuff? These are some trying times. What are the moments of joy and success that we're having?
It's the little things. It's the reaching out. It's the video messages on a kid's birthday, the drive-by parties. The fire truck even going out there one time, to celebrate
Yeah.
somebody's birthday. Like I said, the ding dong dashes. Seeing. It's been amazing to see. On social media. A lot of the ways that people are interacting and supporting each other. I've just been blown away, and I can't identify too many specific cases because there's been so
Yeah.
many. I mean, this podcast that you're doing is certainly right up there in terms of having people do what they can to improve their community. Morinville News has done some work as well in terms of
Yeah.
business supporting business. It's just, I'm just blown away by how we've all stepped up and done what we can, within our own means to make our lives a little bit better through all this. It's uh,
It's pretty awesome.
I don't have words for it. You know, it's just staggering the outpouring of support that we've shown each other, and hopefully that will continue, and I believe it will.
I think you're right about that. Lee, any final thoughts? Softballs, hardballs, anything you'd like to throw Morinville Mayor Barry Turner?
No, I'm gonna just lay low here.
Okay. Barry, I can't thank you enough for accepting the invitation to come here. There's a lot of different folks that I've reached out to that are fairly afraid to go on to a live stream because there's no takebacks. We can't, hit stop and then record again. And I think it shows, well of your character as a mayor to come on to a small, you don't know what you're coming into. It's a music teacher asking a mayor questions. It could be anything. And I appreciate that.
What could go wrong?
Nothing could go wrong, but it really means a lot to me, and hopefully folks in the community are going to be able to see this and learn something from it, and help each other and help their businesses locally.
You betcha. Thanks again for the opportunity, and what you've done here is a great thing too, and you need to take some praise for that as well. This isn't as simple as people think it is, to put something like this together. It takes time and commitment, and thank you for that.
You're very welcome, Barry. And so once again, thank you. And next week, we are going to be doing a how to go into recovering as a small business. Lee Hodgins, who joined us here today, it's kind of the relaunch strategy for small businesses. We all, had to make a strategy for how to handle things. But now as the province is coming back on board, Lee's going to help us relaunch and make the plans and have the processes in place that are necessary for that. So thanks so much for joining me today, and we'll see you guys next Monday.
Stay healthy.
Thank you.